Welcome back to Raptor-One.
Raptor-One, Voyagers of the Stars. Chapter 7, The Glass Reef. The reef appeared long before they reached it. A shimmer in the dark, a faint radiance like starlight spilled across water. It stretched for thousands of kilometers, a vast lattice of crystalline towers rising from the surface of a dying world. Each tower was translucent, fractured into facets that caught the light of the nearby sun and bent it into shimmering waves. From orbit, it looked like the skeleton of a great creature left to bleach in silence. Lyra cut the engines to half-thrust, bringing Raptor-One into a slow descent. Sensor readouts? Kael squinted at his display, confused. It's like the whole thing is alive with interference, bouncing our scans back in patterns, not data. Juno's eyes were fixed on the viewport. Her lips moved faintly, as though she were repeating something under her breath. "It's not interference," she said at last. "It's language." Lyra glanced at her. "You mean it's speaking?" Juno nodded slowly. "Not in sound, in light. Every reflection is deliberate. Every angle is a syllable." Kael groaned, rubbing his temple. "Fantastic. We're flying into a planet-sized kaleidoscope with homework attached." Lyra ignored him, eyes on the reef below. "Take us in." Descent. As they dipped into the atmosphere, the scale of the reef revealed itself. Towers hundreds of meters tall, all hollow, all strung together by webs of crystalline filaments. Sunlight fractured into shifting rainbows that danced across the ship's hull. The air shimmered, not with heat but with resonance, the towers humming faintly in a frequency that prickled at the edge of hearing. The shard pulsed in Juno's hands, faint light echoing the rhythm of the reef. Lyra guided the ship toward a wide basin where the towers opened into something like a plaza. There, at the center, a single spire rose higher than the rest, its facets carved with geometric precision. Unlike the others, it glowed from within. Kael whistled low. "That one's important. Or ominous. Or both." "Both," Juno whispered. Lyra set Raptor-One down on a flat stretch of crystalline ground. The ship's landing struts rang against the surface, the sound traveling far through the reef, bouncing back in strange harmonics. The reef was listening. First contact. They disembarked in full gear, stepping onto the glittering surface. Light refracted through the towers in shifting patterns, painting the crew in bands of color. The silence was vast, broken only by the faint hum. Then the hum changed. The towers rippled with light, facets catching the sun and bending it in precise, coordinated ways. Lines of color raced across the plaza, converging on the central spire. Juno's eyes went distant. She raised the shard high, and its glow answered. "They know we're here," she said softly. "Define they," Kael muttered, scanning the horizon. Juno didn't answer. She stepped forward into the light. The spire's glow intensified, and the entire reef seemed to inhale. A beam of refracted light struck Juno directly, splitting around her like a prism, casting her shadow in 7 directions at once. She shuddered, lips parting. "They're asking us a question." Lyra tightened her grip on her pistol. "What kind of question?" Juno turned, her eyes filled with shifting light. "Who we are." The test of light. The plaza blazed. Beams ricocheted between towers, forming shapes in the air, symbols of color and shadow. They shifted rapidly, patterns forming and breaking like words spoken too quickly to follow. Juno staggered, overwhelmed. Lyra caught her, steadying her. "Slow it down," Lyra said firmly. "We can't answer if we don't understand." The shard pulsed, and suddenly the pattern slowed. The light froze into a single shape, a spiral, fractured into shards, incomplete. Kael frowned. "That looks familiar." Lyra's stomach tightened. It was the same shape that had burned across the index shard in the derelict, the incomplete map. "They want to know if we're part of it," Juno said. Lyra set her jaw. "Then we show them." She drew the shard from her pouch, raising it high. Light spilled out, brighter than before, refracting into the spiral. The reef answered with a low, resonant hum that shook the ground. The spiral completed itself in light. The reef had accepted them. For now. The warning. The central spire pulsed, then projected a vision across the plaza. Beams of light wove into images, ships burning, towers shattering, oceans boiling away. The Architect's War. The Autumn's Advance. The same devastation Lyra had seen in the Silent Sea's memory, but clearer, sharper. The vision ended with the reef itself, intact but surrounded by autumn constructs, red eyes glowing in the dark. The spire flickered violently, almost in pain. "They know the autumn are coming," Juno whispered. Lyra's hand tightened on the shard. "Then this place isn't just a choir post. It's a warning beacon." Kael's face was pale, but he forced a grim smile. "Yeah, well, warnings don't stop bullets." The reef hummed again, softer this time. New symbols formed in the air, converging into a single point of light. A new set of coordinates burned into the crystal ground. The next destination. Lyra exhaled slowly. "They've given us the path." Juno's voice was faint, and asked us to carry it. Lyra looked at the reef one last time. The spire's glow was dimming, as though it had spent too much energy showing them the vision. She knew, without being told, that this was not a place they could linger. "Back to the ship," she said. As they boarded Raptor-One, the reef began to hum louder, its towers blazing with light. It was already preparing its defense, knowing the autumn would soon find it. Lyra strapped into her chair, eyes fixed on the stars ahead. Glass Reef is holding the line. Now it's our turn to keep moving. The shard pulsed in answer, and the ship leapt back into the dark. Raptor-One, Voyagers of the Stars. Chapter 7, The Glass Reef, Part 2. The reef began to sing. It wasn't sound, not exactly. The crystalline towers vibrated in unison, their light shifting into sharp, deliberate pulses. The air quivered with resonance, a language the shard pulsed along with, as though it too was joining the chorus. Then, faint but unmistakable, came the answering note, a discordant hum rising from the sky above. Kael's head snapped up, his jaw tightening. "Tell me that's thunder." Lyra didn't look away from the viewport. "Not thunder." The clouds split. Shapes descended in burning arcs, sleek, angular silhouettes unfolding like knives. Autumn constructs, dropships riding frictionless down the atmosphere, their eyes already blazing with red fire. The reef song shifted to a defensive pitch, beams of light refracting into barriers that shimmered across the towers. The autumn slammed into them with surgical strikes, energy blasts cutting crystalline spires in half. The ground shook as fragments rained down in showers of glittering shards. Juno swayed, clutching the shard to her chest. "They came faster than I thought. They've been tracking us." "Tracking it," Kael corrected, his rifle clutched tight. "And now we've led them to another choir post." "Wonderful. Lyra scanned the sky. The autumn weren't here for them alone. They were here to silence the glass reef permanently. The reef struggled. The reef fought back. Beams of refracted light shot skyward, splitting into spears of color that pierced autumn dropships mid-descent. They flared and died, crashing into the towers in plumes of flame. But for each one that fell, 3 more descended. On the ground, smaller constructs deployed, hunters with blade-like limbs that moved in eerie coordination, scuttling across crystal bridges with inhuman grace. Their red optics reflected in every surface, multiplying until it felt like 1,000 eyes were staring. Kael leveled his rifle, firing at the first wave as they scurried closer. "Captain, say the word. Fight or flight." Lyra's teeth clenched. She watched the reef's towers crack under autumn bombardment, watched the light falter, heard Juno's strained breathing as the shard pulsed faster and faster. "Both," Lyra said. "We fight long enough to give the reef a chance. Then we run." Holding the line. The 3 of them fell into formation, backs to the base of the central spire. Kael fired in tight bursts, each shot splintering an autumn hunter into shards of sparking alloy. Lyra picked her targets with precision, dropping those that got too close to the shard. Juno stood in the center, the shard raised high, its glow sinking with the reef. Her eyes shone faintly, every breath a struggle. "I can help it," she gasped. "I can amplify its song." "Careful," Lyra barked, but Juno had already pressed her palms against the crystal floor. The shard blazed. The reef answered with a harmonic wave, so powerful the towers vibrated like struck bells. Light speared upward in a lattice, catching autumn ships midair and tearing them apart in cascades of molten wreckage. Kael whooped despite himself. "That's what I'm talking about." But Juno staggered, nearly collapsing. Lyra caught her, holding her upright. "Easy. You're burning yourself out." "It's not just me," Juno whispered. Her eyes glowed brighter, distant. "The reef is screaming. It knows it can't hold them off forever." The choice. Lyra looked out across the battlefield. The autumn were unrelenting. The reef's defenses blazed with desperate brilliance, but spires fell faster than they rose. For every autumn destroyed, more descended. Kael's rifle clicked empty. He slammed in another cartridge with shaking hands. "Captain, we can't turn this tide." Juno swayed against Lyra, her voice faint but resolute. "But we can carry its song. If the reef falls, the shard keeps its memory alive. The next choir post will hear it." The shard pulsed in Lyra's hand, hot and urgent. It was pleading, not to stay, but to go. Lyra's chest tightened. Every instinct screamed at her to keep fighting, to stand until there was nothing left. But the reef had given them the path. If they stayed, they'd lose it here, and the autumn would erase everything. Her decision carved itself in steel. "We go," she said. Kael exhaled, half relieved, half regretful. "About damn time." Juno's voice cracked with sorrow. "They'll die without us." "They'll die if we stay too," Lyra said softly. She looked up at the glowing spire, its light already dimming under the autumn's assault. "But their song won't." Escape. They sprinted back toward Raptor-One, weaving through collapsing towers as autumn hunters gave chase. Kael fired behind them, covering their retreat with controlled bursts. Lyra carried Juno when her legs faltered, the shard blazing like a beacon in her hands. The ship's ramp yawned open, its engines already whining. Lyra threw Juno aboard and followed with Kael right behind. The hatch slammed shut as autumn fires stitched across the hull. Lyra hit the thrusters, and Raptor-One roared skyward. The reef blazed beneath them, its last light flaring in defiance. On the viewport, they watched the central spire shatter under a final autumn strike. The reef's song rose one last time, a resonant chord that echoed through the shard, filling the cabin with aching beauty. Then the reef fell silent. Juno wept quietly in her seat, the shard glowing softly against her chest. Lyra's knuckles were white on the controls. "We'll carry it," she said. Her voice was steady, though her throat burned. "We'll carry all of them, until the end." The reef's last chord lingered long after its towers had fallen. In Raptor-One's cabin, the shard echoed the sound with a softer pulse, carrying the memory of what had been lost. Juno sat curled in her seat, both hands cupped around it like a fragile flame. Tears streaked her face, but her voice was steady when she whispered, "It's still singing. Not gone, just carried." Lyra glanced at her, then back at the stars ahead. "Then we carry it, until we can return it." Kael leaned back in the co-pilot's chair, his usual bravado muted. "I've seen a lot of places burn, but that was different. They weren't fighting for land or resources. They were fighting to keep a promise." He gave a bitter laugh, and we were the only ones who heard it. Lyra didn't answer. Her eyes were fixed on the NAV display. The reef's final pulse had etched new coordinates across their map, 3 luminous points triangulating another destination. The Ash Orchard. The orchard's call. Juno sat up slowly, her fingers still resting on the shard. "The next choir post is waiting. I can feel it. It's like an echo in my bones." The reef passed its song to the shard, and the shard is passing it on. Lyra nodded. "Then that's where we go." But Kael tapped a warning on the console. "Captain, problem. We're not the only ones who saw the reef light up." He zoomed the scope. A string of blips appeared at the system's edge, sleek silhouettes in formation. Alliance ships. And not scouts this time. A full patrol wing, cutters and cruisers both, moving fast and tight. The Alliance moves. The comms crackled, sharp and official. "Unidentified vessel Raptor-One. This is Alliance Task Group Aegis. You are ordered to power down and prepare for boarding. You are considered a vessel of interest in connection with recent anomalous events." Kael groaned. "Of course. They show up after the reef gets stomped, ready to slap our wrists for existing." Juno's grip on the shard tightened. They don't understand what they're dealing with. If they take it, the autumn will find it, and they'll silence it, like the reef. Lyra's jaw tightened, which means surrender isn't an option. On the scope, the Alliance cruisers fanned out, herding them toward the system's core. Their signals sharpened. Comply immediately or be disabled. Kael looked to Lyra, his eyes sharp. "So what's the play? Run? Fight? Or bluff?" Lyra took a breath, steadying herself. Ahead, the shard pulsed once, faint but insistent, pointing them toward the Ash Orchard. Behind, the Alliance closed like a net. Somewhere beyond both, the autumn were surely still watching. "None of the above," she said at last. "We thread the needle. Juno, give me the orchard's path. Kael, prep the drives. We're not fighting the Alliance. We're not surrendering to them either. We're going where the shard tells us, before anyone can stop us." The shard blazed, painting a thin, impossible line through the stars. Raptor-One turned toward it, engine screaming.
Thank you for listening. If you would like to be notified about upcoming releases to the Raptor-One series, please subscribe. This has been a Bad Karma drone production.